Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be taking a look at online weapons trafficking,
Okay.
specifically on crypto markets.
Right?
Now, if you're thinking, dark corner of the internet,
Yeah.
automatic weapons, explosives,
Mm.
get ready for a surprise.
Mm.
The research paper that we're looking at today is from Forensic Science International, and they actually went and analyzed 9 different crypto markets
Interesting.
back in early 2016.
Okay.
And what they found might challenge your assumptions about what's really going on in this, shadowy corner of the internet.
Yeah, the media loves to portray these crypto markets as just, a free-for-all for illegal firearms.
Yeah.
But, this research that we're going to be taking a deep dive into,
Right.
it really paints a different picture.
Yeah.
One of the most surprising findings, to me at least, was the types of weapons that were being sold.
Okay. So what were they?
Well, out of the 386 weapon listings
Okay.
that were analyzed firearms, only accounted for about 25%.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Almost half the listings were for pepper spray, tasers, knives,
Really?
even tactical pens.
Wow.
Things that you can get at like a sporting goods store.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. Like, you can just go get that stuff. Why would you even bother? Like, why go through the trouble?
Right.
Why go through the trouble of going on a crypto market and getting that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it suggests that anonymity and discretion are playing a huge role.
Yeah.
Maybe buyers feel that it's less risky to ship and receive discreetly than firearms.
Okay.
Or maybe they just don't want to leave a paper trail.
Makes sense.
But, whatever the reason, it really challenges that assumption that everybody on these markets is looking for high-powered weaponry.
Right. Okay. So if it wasn't all about guns, what else was on offer on these crypto markets?
So there were also listings for ammunition, explosives,
Okay.
and CBRN material,
CZRN.
which stands for chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear. There were even digital listings like weapon manuals,
Oh, okay.
3D printing files.
Oh, wow.
Some of the listings even linked out to other dedicated weapon sites on the dark web.
Yeah.
So, you could find a link on one crypto market
Yeah.
and click it, and it would take you to a dedicated, illegal weapons website.
Wow. Yeah, the 3D printing stuff is interesting to me because that's obviously a newer technology.
Right.
And it seems like that is changing the landscape of all this.
Absolutely. It really is.
So with all this variety, you'd think that these markets would be thriving, were they?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting. Despite the variety, there was a really striking lack of feedback on the listings.
Mhm.
Only 10 out of the 386 had any buyer reviews.
Wow, that's a pretty low number.
Yeah, this is, a stark contrast to something like drug listings on crypto markets, which often have tons of reviews.
That's a great point. I mean, why is that? Why is feedback so crucial in these online marketplaces? I mean, obviously reviews are helpful anywhere, but especially in a place like that.
Right. Well, think about it. You're buying illegal goods from an anonymous seller.
Right.
Trust is paramount, especially when you factor in all the inherent risks of using the dark web.
Uh-huh.
Feedback becomes the primary way to assess the reliability of a vendor and, avoid scams.
Right, because you're not going to go back to the store and, return it or anything like that. Just like, that's it.
Exactly.
So this lack of feedback then suggests that maybe the market wasn't as big or as successful as one might imagine.
Exactly. It suggests that the volume of transactions was much lower than, one might expect.
Okay, so maybe not a booming business,
Yeah.
but was this activity spread across all the crypto markets, or was it more concentrated?
Well, here's another intriguing finding. Over 70% of the weapons listings were concentrated on just 2 crypto markets, Alphabay and Dream Market.
Interesting. Why do you think that is? I mean, was there something special about those two?
There could be a number of reasons. They might have had a more established reputation,
Okay.
or a larger user base, or maybe specific security features
Right.
that attracted those types of vendors, or maybe they were just simply more tolerant of weapons listings than the other markets.
Okay, so yeah, maybe it's a combination of all those things.
Exactly.
Now, this research actually went a step further than just analyzing listings,
Right.
didn't it?
It did.
They actually tried to identify the sellers.
Yeah, they dug into the digital footprints that these sellers left behind
Oh, wow.
by analyzing things like, Pseudonyms, PGP keys, email addresses, even images that were used in the listings. They were able to uncover connections between different vendors.
So they were like digital detectives kind of like piecing together this puzzle.
Exactly.
Wow.
They identified 96 vendor profiles. And here's the surprise. They found that some sellers were actually operating multiple accounts across different markets.
Wow. Okay, so why would they do that?
It's a pretty clever tactic.
Okay.
You know, having multiple accounts could be a way to expand your reach.
Right.
Or, you know, maybe it's just a backup plan
Okay.
in case one market gets shut down.
Yeah.
You know, it allows them to kind of spread their risk and increase their potential profits.
Right. So it's a much more intricate world than I initially imagined.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's not as simple as just like, going to a website and, seeing what's available.
Right. It's not like Amazon for weapons.
Yeah, exactly.
It's much more complicated than that.
Yeah, so much more strategic.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to think about, the strategies that these sellers use to kind of navigate this risky business.
Yeah.
But this research only gives us a snapshot in time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is what, 2016?
2016.
Things have probably evolved quite a bit since then.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the world of crypto markets is incredibly dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, those two dominant platforms that we were just talking about,
Right.
Alphabay and Dream Market,
Mm-hmm.
they were shut down by law enforcement back in 2017.
Yeah, that's right. I remember those takedowns made headlines.
Huge blow to the whole crypto market ecosystem.
Big time.
But I imagine it didn't wipe out online weapons trafficking entirely, did it?
No, not at all. I mean, it's like a game of whack-a-mole, you know?
Right.
You shut down one market, another one pops up to take its place.
Right.
Plus, the technology itself is constantly evolving, you know?
Yeah.
We've seen more, advanced encryption tools, anonymization techniques emerge
Right.
that make it even harder for law enforcement to track these activities.
So it's a constant cat and mouse game.
Absolutely, yeah.
Where law enforcement's trying to crack down
Mm-hmm.
and the criminals are finding new ways to stay ahead.
Yep. And those high-profile shutdowns while they were disruptive. They may have inadvertently pushed some of the weapons trade into even more hidden corners of the internet.
More hidden. What do you mean by that?
I mean, think about like private forums,
Right.
encrypted messaging apps,
Right.
peer-to-peer networks.
Okay.
These spaces are much harder to monitor and infiltrate
Right.
than the more traditional crypto markets.
So less about these open marketplaces
Right.
and more about these closed communities.
Exactly.
Which makes it even more difficult to even get a sense of the scale
Absolutely.
and scoop of all this.
Yeah, it's like trying to track a ghost. It's out there,
Right.
but it's really difficult to get a firm grasp on it.
So with all these challenges,
Mm-hmm.
how can law enforcement even begin to tackle this problem?
Well, international cooperation is key.
Okay.
These online networks often span multiple countries.
Yeah.
So collaboration between law enforcement agencies is absolutely essential.
Makes sense. Criminals don't respect borders.
Nope.
And law enforcement can't afford to either.
Okay.
But beyond cooperation, what other tools do they have in their arsenal?
Well, technology plays a huge role, of course,
Right.
Law enforcement agencies are using data analytics, artificial intelligence,
Huh?
and other advanced tools to try to sift through massive amounts of data
Okay.
and identify patterns of criminal activity.
So fighting fire with fire.
Exactly.
Using the same tools
Yeah.
that the criminals are using.
Uh-huh.
But it can't just be about technology,
Right.
right?
Oh, of course not. I mean, human intelligence is still incredibly important.
Okay.
Things like undercover operations.
Yeah.
Informants.
Okay.
Analysis of open source intelligence.
Makes sense.
These are all still crucial elements of these investigations.
So it requires a multi-pronged approach combining technology, international cooperation, and traditional investigative techniques.
Exactly.
Now, we've been talking a lot about the supply side,
Right.
the sellers, the markets.
Yeah.
But what about the demand side? Who are the people buying these weapons online?
That's a question that researchers are still trying to answer definitively.
Yeah.
It's likely a very diverse group, ranging from individuals looking for self-defense tools
Okay.
to organized crime groups
Sure.
acquiring firearms for illegal activities.
Right. And their motivations could vary wildly, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Some might be driven by fear,
Yeah.
others by profit, some by ideology, some maybe even just by curiosity.
Right.
It's a very complex mix.
Yeah. And it's important to remember that this easy access to these weapons online can have very real and serious consequences offline.
Absolutely.
a weapon bought on a crypto market could potentially be used in a crime,
Yeah.
a terrorist attack,
Uh-huh.
even a mass shooting.
Absolutely.
It's a chilling thought. It really underscores why it's so important to understand this issue,
Right.
both the supply and the demand
Uh-huh.
driving this online weapons trade.
As we kind of wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Like,
I think it's important to emphasize that this is an ongoing challenge.
right.
It's not a problem with a simple solution.
Right. It's like a shadowy, constantly shifting landscape.
Yeah,
And it requires continuous vigilance and adaptation
absolutely.
from both law enforcement and policymakers
Uh-huh.
to stay ahead of the curve.
For sure.
I don't know. It's easy to feel kind of overwhelmed by all this.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
what can any of us as individuals even do to make a difference here?
I get that it can feel very powerless when you're faced with these big global challenges,
Right.
but there are things we can do even at an individual level.
Okay.
First and foremost, stay informed,
Right.
The more we understand about, this online world and how it operates,
Yeah.
the better equipped we'll be to, advocate for meaningful change and support effective solutions.
Okay. So knowledge is power. But what about tangible actions?
Yeah.
What can we actually do?
Well, supporting organizations that are working to combat the illicit arms trade is a great place to start.
Okay.
There are some amazing NGOs and advocacy groups
Right.
that are dedicated to tackling this issue both here at home and internationally.
Okay. So do some research, find a reputable organization.
Exactly.
Support them.
Yep.
Okay. What about in our daily lives? Is there anything we can do there?
Absolutely. Being mindful of our own online activity is crucial.
Okay. Yep.
Think about the information that we share, the websites we visit, even the accounts we follow.
Right.
Are we even inadvertently contributing to the spread of misinformation or supporting platforms that might be facilitating these illegal activities?
So be aware of our digital footprint
Exactly.
and, the potential consequences.
And if you see something online that you raises red flags,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to report it.
Okay.
It could be a suspicious social media post,
Right.
a questionable listing on a marketplace,
Yeah.
even just a gut feeling that something's not right. Report it to the appropriate authorities.
So we can all be like more proactive digital citizens taking responsibility
Exactly.
and reporting anything that seems out of place.
And never underestimate the power of your voice.
Okay.
Talk about this issue with your friends, your family, your community.
Yeah.
Advocate for stronger gun control measures.
Right.
Support research into the online arms trade.
Mhm.
Push for greater transparency and accountability from tech companies.
All right. So even small actions can, add up and build into something bigger.
Absolutely. I mean, every little bit helps.
Well, this has been really eye-opening, I have to say.
Yeah.
Really shed some light on a dark corner of the internet.
It is a dark corner.
And yeah, I think it's a good reminder that we all have a role to play
Yeah.
in, keeping these dangerous weapons out of the wrong hands.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
And until next time, stay curious.